Hello everyone, welcome to another race here with Mo Allen. Tonight I will be racing the Stage 2 Fresh Outta 24 race series on Zwift. This is an 18.7 kilometer total ride, 69 meters of elevation, really flat route on the going coastal route. As you can see, small group to start. Just 8 of us in this B category. So this is a Zwift Racing Score category from 520 to 690, essentially the B, old B cat equivalent. To start here, so I was expecting this to be to go one of two ways with a group this small. Either it was going to be flat out and have like a break from the beginning, or it was going to be as you're seeing it now, which is quite subdued. I quickly found that it wasn't going to stay this subdued. But to begin, this was a surprise. I didn't expect it to be this way. This is basically a group ride at this point. But you will see some fireworks coming up here soon, and there are some things to discuss here. Some mistakes probably were made. I think some good decisions were also made, but this was a really interesting ride. Okay, so you see W Cadence going off the front there, pushing over 6 watts, and I'm immediately on it. But you see that I'm not like immediately getting across to that rider. I didn't have necessarily the legs to stay with this move, I don't think, from the beginning. So I put in a little dig and hoped some of the group would come with me. W Cadence is easing up a bit now, down in the 4s, so it seemed like they weren't going to sustain it. So thankfully for us, we were able to bring them back. But if you keep watching, you'll see that this happens multiple times, and this was actually a surprise to me. I wasn't prepared for one rider making multiple moves like this. I'll say I have to take my hat off to W Cadence there, because they raced a smart race from what I can tell. I'm assuming they rode within themselves. You can see they're still off the front here, still pushing pretty high watts, but not getting away from us, and we're actually bringing them back. So I'm assuming they had the fitness to be able to make these attacks. This is a relatively short route in distance, really flat. So if they went out with this tactic in mind from the start, then hats off to them. I also see that they immediately, after the digs, they immediately go to the back of the group, and sometimes are off the pedals completely and coast. Sometimes they're under 1 watt a kilogram. I was actually really envious of their ride. Actually here, did they just use a ghost power up? Is that what I just noticed? Are they gonna pop up? Yes, okay, so there they go up front. I don't think I knew that ghost power-ups were in play. So when I saw that rider up front, I just assumed that I didn't see them break from the group. So you can see me reacting to that as well. So there's W Cadence off the front. There's me trying to put in something to close it down. You can see that I don't have a lot to necessarily get all the way across. It's luckily others in the group were also willing to try to do some efforts to bring them back. So it's interesting watching this back now that I see that they used Ghost Power Up. And I know that there's a Ghost. I wouldn't have even known that there was a Ghost Power Up if I hadn't gotten one at the end. And actually, my Ghost Power Up at the end didn't seem to work. And I'm curious if that's because of how close I was to the finish. You can wait around to the finish and see when I try to activate the Ghost Power Up on the final sprint. And something happens that I'd never seen happen before. We'll discuss it when we get there. But so we brought Coggins back, and there they go immediately to the back, getting that draft. Really smart riding from them, I think. It might be at about this point, so we're 6 minutes in here, averaging 338 watts, which is quite high with these digs here, but I think it's at this point, or maybe the next one, because I honestly... Yeah, maybe it was this one that I am basically trying to keep an eye on Coggins, because it didn't seem like anyone else was making these. No one else was making these breaks. And so I decided that I would just go with Coggins when they went and try to go earlier, especially that last one where in race I hadn't realized that they used the Ghost and popped out in front. I just figured that I was so off of paying attention to the group that I let them get away that far. So it really kind of took me off my game, these first two digs here. So it's either now or when they do it again, and they will do it again, and it won't be the last time that they do it. This is when I decide that I'm gonna stick with them and cover any moves more immediately than I had been. So here, I actually expected some sort of move. For some reason, this, it's common in races that little incline, some people will put in some efforts to try to break up the group. But for some reason, this downhill sometimes catches me out, which is surprising to me sometimes. So I'm hyper aware of this, I should say decline, not really downhill, but this little 2% decline into this curve around here. For some reason, this is when I'm doing pacer rides and in some races, this is where I'll start to go to the back of the group. So I've become hyper aware. This is the section for me that's like on the London Classique route. There's a section where you do a full 180 degree turn back in the opposite direction. I think, before the sprint point, that section there, when that turn happens, I always drift to the back of the group, and I always feel like I have to put in quite a big effort just to stay with the group. And that's kind of how this section is for me. I have a bit of PTSD about this section right here, so I become vigilant. But no moves here. so far, well, except for D Michael up there. So I'm just shutting that down a little bit as they go over 4 watts sustained for a bit here, just going up with them, realizing now that it wasn't an actual move. So here, as I shut down that move from D Michael, I realized that I got a 1 second gap, about 10 meters back to the group. So I figured, let me, even though I know I didn't have that great of legs to shut down the Cadence moves, I said, let me put in a little effort here, and maybe, you know, it's possible that the group has burned themselves out to some point. And I said, let me just put in a little sustained effort here and see what kind of gap I can get. So you can see this is an interesting point in the race, right? Because I'm gaining with about a 4.5 watt per kilogram average, probably closer to 4 now. The gap is increasing, which at this point I was like, okay, maybe I'll keep on this. But then I start to see, you'll see the gap come down. And so I'm out to 20 meters now, and I'm not feeling, my legs are not feeling incredibly strong. I ran yesterday, an easy run for me, but my run fitness now is quite low. So even easy runs in terms of heart rates and zones tax the legs. So I was feeling it in my legs. And so you can see here, I'm shutting down this move as the group comes back. So that was an interesting point. I don't know, probably ill-advised. And there goes Cadence with a counter move off the front. And that's a great move again, because I just did that effort and don't have the legs to stay with them. So I'm just trying to try to stay on some wheels. You see, I can't stay on either of those 2 wheels that went. So I'm just trying to keep up here. I do get back to this rider in front. So it was here as the group that comes back together. I had just done that sustained effort to go off the front of the group and to hang with the group after Cadence made their counter move, that I realized I wasn't sure whether or not this route was going to go actually up the climb, the little incline into Titans Grove rollers. I knew it was flat, but I didn't actually do any recon, so I didn't know where the actual route went. So I was worried here. So here's another move by Cadence that I'm trying to shut down immediately. You can see they put in some pretty high numbers pretty quickly. Oh, and there's another Ghost rider up there. I'm almost positive that at this point in the race, I did not realize that those riders were using Ghost power-ups. So that probably added to my confusion. Not confusion, but just like my demeanor about this race. So at this point, I thought, okay, it's a race for third at this point. I figured those 2 riders were gone. I didn't have the legs to shut it down. I had a gap to the group behind, and so I figured at this point I was just going to sit up and wait for that group. At some point you'll see that that's the decision I make, because I'm not getting across to those riders in front. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a race for third. But I was happy to see here that we did not go to Titans Grove, and we're going out towards the other coast here. So, which I should have known, judging by the route going coastal. So here the group's coming back together, and I'm just at this point trying to conserve. So I'm at 332 watt average after 15 minutes, currently at 174 beats a minute. The other thing too in this ride is that I think at this point I am in my second to hardest gear. I have only one harder gear left. I'm in the big ring, and I'm second to hardest on the cassette. So this was really taxing for the legs here. So there's only 8K to go. So I know I have to be vigilant. I'm seeing that we're actually Coggins and Michael, we're bringing them back, which I was surprised to make that left turn there and see that they were so close relatively. Still putting on the watts, but at this point I figured, okay, the group is going to all come back together, and then it's just about seeing whether or not I could shut down any moves that riders make. I know that if anyone's feeling incredibly strong and they make moves, at this point I don't think I'm going to be able to cover them, so I'm just trying to do what I can here. I know it's going to be over fairly soon, so I'm going to empty the tank, I think, to try to cover moves at this point. But I know that if I have to cover too many of them, that it's just going to spell disaster for the end of the ride. So here we're all together, just trying to do what I can to sort of stay in the pack, not get too much to the front, but still try to make sure I'm close enough to the front that I can react to any moves. Again, you see the tactics of Coggins off the back there. There they go, freewheeling like I was mentioning earlier. Really well played by them again. I can't stress it enough. So we got 5 kilometers to go here. I know we're getting to the end, and happy that for a spell there no one's making any moves. At this point I was wondering if everyone was just gonna sit up and wait for the sprint. Again, now that I'm watching this back, I noticed that another rider used the Ghost power up there, which until I get this Ghost power up, I believe, I didn't realize were one of the power ups here. So I guess we'll see them pop out up front at some point. Unless they didn't actually make an effort to get away. Maybe everyone's still here. So I'm being diligent here, just watching the riders around, keeping a keen eye on the watts in the rider list. You can see all the riders here up above 4 watts a kilogram. So I'm just making sure I put out similar power and stay with the group. A little over 4K to go now. And I'm continuing to think about what kind of sprint I might be able to put in, when I'm going to sprint, when am I going to use the Ghost power up. You'll see at the end that I don't use it at the right time. As I mentioned before, I guess especially if I had known that it wasn't going to work, if I used it so late, I used it way too late. But again, this ride, I was a little frazzled by all this was a very good learning ride for like a small group. Not only small, well, yeah, like a small group and what to do. So you can see Coggins going off the side there. So I noticed this immediately. When I see it, this is an interesting point too. See what Coggins does. So they steer to the right, put in an effort to go off the side, and then immediately sit up and let the rest of the group come and catch up. Which was another really smart tactic, I think. So I'm out in front here. I potentially am putting in, thinking, okay, I got 10 meters on everyone. Let me try to put in another little dig, but then it comes right back. Coggins is coming, so I'm going to sit up here and just wait for the group. So you will see again, there will be a time that with just under 3K to go, Coggins will go off to the right there and accelerate, and then immediately sit up. Which again, just is like unexpected, sapping my legs at least a little bit. I don't know whether or not I should have covered. It didn't seem like anyone else was going to, so I think I did the right thing. At this point, I'm really marking Coggins. I'm like, so you see them go off to, let's see if this is where they do it. Yeah, there they go, off to the right and putting in a dig up to 7 watts a kilogram. So there I go. And then immediately off, right? So I don't know if they're doing this tactically on purpose, but it was really good tactics in terms of getting me off my game personally. I don't know what how other riders were reacting to it. Here goes Coggins again, off to the right, another dig. So there I go, trying to stay with it, and there they go, sitting up. So that's 3 times in a short span. We've got that they did that. We've got 2K left to go. There goes another dig from Coggins, and I think, okay, maybe this one might stick, but no, it's the same tactic, so that's the 4th time. So that was really sapping my legs here with only 1.8K to go. There's a lot to think about, a lot of composure that needed to be had here. 175 beats a minute currently. Definitely feeling it, definitely wondering what kind of effort I can put in at the end here. Mark 2630. So here we go with 0.6 kilometers to go. I'm just mentally preparing, just checking the watts of the riders, the rider avatars, keeping an eye on Coggin, seeing who's gonna make a move first here, thinking about when to use this Ghost power up. And actually just noticed that someone, again, so at this point I hadn't noticed that there's a rider up there that had used the power up already. So here you go. I just tried to, you see there, I just tried to use the power up and it just went away. It didn't even work. So my sprint was fairly good. I do pick off one rider up front in front of me here, right there. So these two riders plus the rider who came in first there, Fadul, came in front of me. You'll see that I was 4th on Zwift, but 3rd in Zwift Power. And that's because D. Michael didn't have heart rate. When I went to congratulate them, leave a comment to them on their ride on the Zwift Companion app, I noticed that they had no heart rate. So that's why I was able to get a podium in Zwift Power, at least. So this was really interesting. It's interesting too because I had planned to do this ride earlier in the day where there were dozens more riders in the group, but 2 times I had rescheduled it and things came up both times. So I was surprised to see the small group here and was wondering when I registered, there was only 3 riders registered, I believe. So I was really interested to see how the ride would go, and we can see how it went. Overall, happy with the ride. Definitely some lessons to be learned there, and some good tactics by the riders. Well played to them. So we'll see my stats here. So I got 1,022 watts for 5 seconds there during the sprint, which was pretty good. My sprint power and sustainability is coming up. is increasing, which is nice. Pretty good effort over the 27-ish minutes. Glad to have gotten it done. I actually was going to skip this ride because I was a little tired, and it was really cold in the garage. So anyway, that's another ride done. Appreciate you all watching, and I will talk to you all on the next video. If you're so inclined, give the video a like, subscribe to get notifications, and I will talk to you later.